Welcome, everybody. It is now 6:09, and the meeting was actually called to order at 6:03. Following our agenda for the September 27, 2023 meeting, review and approval of said meeting agenda. Are there any corrections or deletions to the agenda? All right. Can we, by unanimous consent, if there are no objections, approve the September 27th, 2023 meeting agenda as distributed, if there are no objections? Hearing none, the meeting agenda is now approved. Next item is review and approval of the meeting minutes from August 23rd, 2023. Are there any corrections to the meeting minutes? All right. Can we, if by unanimous consent, if there are no objections, agree to the August 23rd, 2023 meeting minutes as distributed, if there are no objections? Hearing none, the meeting minutes are now approved. Item number 4 on our agenda is discuss follow-up matters from prior meeting, report on the E-SPLOST items presented at the September 2023 Board of Education meeting. Richard?
All right, there were 2 items that were presented, 2 E-SPLOST items. The first was general contractor services for Midvale Elementary School and DeKalb High School of Technology South major building system replacement. That went to construction works for $19,360,000. And then the second item was the continuation, and this would be year 2 of program management services contract extension to ACERM, which is AECOM and CERM, for a not to exceed amount of $3,167,131. And those were the 2 E-SPLOST items.
All right, thank you, Richard. Any questions for Richard in regards to the Board of Education presentation on E-SPLOST? All right, moving on to our next item. Contract award list.
Yeah, so those were the 2 contracts for the E-SPLOST 5 general contractor services for Midvale and DeKalb High School of Technology. We've listed there under project number, since these are a bundled project. We've listed both project numbers there. Let's see, there were 13 attendees at the pre-bid. Only 1 proposal received, though, from Evergreen, but it was deemed that we needed to move forward with that. There is a budget reallocation associated with that also. And then the other contract really was a contract extension for year 2 for ACERM. And those were the 2 September items.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Min, you have a question?
No, I don't. I accidentally pushed a button. I'm sorry.
Just making sure your hand is up. It can work, right? All right.
I see what I did. I'm sorry.
Are there any questions for Richard in regards to the contract award list? All right, moving right along to number 6 on our agenda. Community feedback from the email.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. We only received 1 email since the last meeting, and that was a question about adding new members to the board, and Richard replied to that email.
All righty, thank you very much, Daniel. Any questions in regards to that? All right, Mel, MSR review?
Thank you, Kathy, and good evening, folks. I'd like to dive into our recap of the August 2023 monthly report, starting with major achievements for the month. Regarding procurement, no projects were advertised for design, meaning architect engineer services in the period, and no projects were advertised for builder services. Contracts awarded for AE services in the period, which was mentioned at our last meeting based on the contract award list, includes E-SPLOST 6 project number 40936. That's the Druid Hills High School Modernization Design Phase 1 to MSA PBK. And at last meeting, Richard described the Phase 1 connotation for that, meaning not the entire design, but basically a modernization report, a site utilization study, and a conceptual design to help the district decide what it would like to do with that modernization project going forward. Contracts awarded for builder services last period included award to Evergreen Construction for GC services for major building system replacement at Chestnut, Laurel Ridge, Woodridge Elementaries, and Druid Hills Middle School. Contracts awarded included the E-SPLOST 5 project to Centennial Contractors for major building system replacement at Hawthorne Elementary School. In terms of our active procurement, fire sprinklers group A, B, and C have been effectively canceled. The CIP team recognizes that we've got work ongoing at E-SPLOST 5 projects that or rather future E-SPLOST 6 projects that we'll be able to incorporate these fire sprinkler projects into. So we're working on that planning, advanced planning. The Henderson Mill roof replacement and HVAC components replacement is scheduled for board approval in October. And the district gave us direction to ask the architect to submit a proposal to add a security vestibule after that GC contract award. Briar Vista Elementary is also slated for October board approval for GC services, and we're contemplating adding the fire alarm system to the scope of work after the GC contract award. We mentioned previously the Livesey Elementary School contract for architectural services awarded to Croft. Contract execution was in progress in August, and spoiler alert, that contract is fully executed, and we're pushing that project forward now. Other considerations or construction solicitations that were under consideration included Clarkston High School. That'll be rebid. The Nancy Creek facility, rebid is planned for September. Parking additions, paving group B will be rebid in the winter with plans to complete that work over summer break 2024. And the Champion Middle School renovations are now bundled with Nancy Creek facility. That's September advertisement, and we plan to have the pre-proposal meeting in late September. In terms of our active construction projects, the Cedar Grove High School auditorium project is complete, and that final project documentation basically represents organizing the finances and setting up the closeout change order. At Hambrook Elementary, everything's complete. Some detailed punch list work is finishing up. And at our Kittredge Magnet Gym HVAC project, the equipment was delivered in August, and Georgia Power will be installing the new service to the main panel board at that location. At our Druid Hills High School, Redan High School baseball project, the Druid Hills High School project at the middle school is complete, and some minor punch list work is finishing up. The Redan High School baseball improvements are complete, and the additional scope items requested by the school that were approved by Mr. Hofstetter are being processed via change order. At E.L. Miller Elementary, the HVAC work is scheduled to commence in October, and that's pending occupancy of the portable classrooms. Spoiler alert, we understand that Georgia Power is installing the transformer there this week, and we do expect to meet that October deadline. At Farrington Elementary, the repaving work is complete, as we reported previously, and the HVAC work is planned for the winter, this winter, 23-24, pending equipment deliveries. At Salem Middle School, the re-roofing work is 95% complete. And the HVAC work at Salem is contemplated for this winter, pending the equipment deliveries. And at Redan Middle School, restroom renovations have been coordinated with the principal in the school, and we do plan to start those here in the fall. And the HVAC work, we'd like to commence in the winter, assuming we get the equipment as expected. Continuing on with the status of our active construction projects, regarding security vestibules Group B, everything was complete except for DeKalb Early College Academy and Elizabeth Andrew High School. Storefronts were delivered and installed in August. The new doors for those storefronts at DECA arrived with a glazing defect, and the delivery of the new storefront doors was TBD in August. The existing doors remain in place, so there's no impact to the school other than the security protection upgrade that the vestibule provides. Spoiler alert there, the doors did ship. Apparently there's an issue with the hardware. I'm sorry, I don't have all the specifics, but we'll be looking into that before this week is out to try to determine a final completion date for that DeKalb Early College Academy project. Projects in the design phase in E-SPLOST 5 include Tony Elementary, and 100% construction documents are expected to be completed in early September. At Rock Chapel Elementary, the schematic design is active, ongoing. At Stoneview Elementary, the architect submitted the 95% construction drawings for district review, and Kingsley is planned to restart when the E-SPLOST 5 budget adjustments that are appropriate for that facility are complete. Regarding our major projects, starting with Cross Keys High School addition and modernization, design continues, schematic design continues, and we're thinking we'll get pretty far along on schematic design by the end of September. Remember, that's an E-SPLOST 5 project. For the new Sequoia High School and Middle School, E-SPLOST 6, schematic design is ongoing, and a meeting with the new area superintendents was planned for early September. Spoiler alert, it was held. That's in reflection of the shift in the regional superintendent's assignments from what were, I guess, regional, I should call them area superintendents now. And I think the meeting was very productive. For our new Dresden Elementary, also an E-SPLOST 6 project, schematic design is ongoing, and we expect to complete that mid to late September. We mentioned the Druid Hills High School modernization contract award in the procurement section. We are launching that as we speak. And for the new Cross Keys Middle School, just a reminder that that project is dependent on site selection and ultimate site approval by the board. Thinking in terms of project planning, looking forward for E-SPLOST 5, we've got a number of HVAC projects deep in the pipeline. We're requesting construction manager at risk procurement for Tony Elementary and Livesey Elementary in September. And we'll be requesting CMAR procurement for Stoneview Elementary and Rock Chapel in October. For E-SPLOST 6 HVAC projects, we expect to request the CMAR procurement for Idlewood and Murphy Candler Elementaries in September, and request design procurement for Ashford Park Elementary and ISC at Midway in September, and then follow on requesting the construction managers at risk in October. Our roofing projects, we plan to do design build procurements as we have in the past successfully, and we'll be moving that effort to October 2023 based on the procurement's current workload. Regarding E-SPLOST 6 security vestibule, fire alarm, and HVAC control upgrades, the note there is accurate. The team is investigating adding what we can in these scopes of work to current E-SPLOST 5 projects. As it relates to security vestibules, those projects, those E-SPLOST 5 projects that we would consider adding that scope to include Rock Chapel, Livesey, Tony, Stoneview, Kingsley, Henderson Mill Elementary, and Champion Middle School. And for fire alarm, the E-SPLOST 6 project, E-SPLOST 5 projects that we are considering adding that scope to include Briar Vista, Hawthorne, Tony, Chestnut, Laurel Ridge, Wood Ridge, and Nancy Creek Elementaries, along with Druid Hills Middle School and Salem Middle School. That concludes the updates for project status and progress. And I like to review the tables from the monthly financial report, if you don't mind. I would quickly turn over to the actual monthly financial report by way of reminder and quickly scroll through it. Again, this is the abbreviated table of contents. We're happy to report. Section 1 is the executive summary of the E-SPLOST CIP. The slides that we just reviewed capture everything you see here. And the tables 1, 2, funding, table 3, commitments and expenditures, and table 4 and table 5, table 4 being the financial report directly from Munis for E-SPLOST 6 projects, and then table 5 representing that companion report directly from Munis for E-SPLOST 6. We summarize that information on these slides for your convenience, starting with tables 1 and 2, as I mentioned, GISFIC reimbursement funding, summary shown here, no change. That is to say, no reimbursements received in August. Currently, our E-SPLOST 4 reimbursements total $85,088,220 and some change. And for E-SPLOST 5, our reimbursements to date total $741,657,000. And the total, as you can see, $85,829,878 and some pennies. So good progress there to date. In terms of E-SPLOST 5 and 6 funding from tables 1 and 2, E-SPLOST 5 sales tax revenues are complete at $616.8 million, as you're aware. E-SPLOST 6 sales tax receipts are still trending nicely through the end of August at $166.5 million, and that's an increase of $14 million from the end of July. By the way, that the total for E-SPLOST 6 at the end of August was forecasted to be $157.8 million. And so we're about $8.7 million above plan at that 166.5. And in fact, that's above the $7 million above plan from last period. So sales tax receipts are accumulating nicely. As we noted last report, interest earned has been added to the summary tables 1 and 2, and for E-SPLOST 5, interest earned on revenue deposits totaled $10,365,820, and that represents an increase of $1,505,059 in August. And E-SPLOST 6 interest earned totaled $3,056,401, and that represents $659,309 accumulated in August. Table 3, as I noted, provides data on expenditures, and E-SPLOST 5 expenditures total $402.9 million, and that's 52.3% of the revised current budget of $770.3 million. And your E-SPLOST 6 expenses total $2.9 million, and that's a mere 0.41% of the current budget of $700 million. In terms of budget versus cost status, or cost versus budget, actually, for E-SPLOST 5, all construction projects are in good shape, and we still have one project, non-construction project number 40235, technology ERP finance HR system, exceeding the current budget. For E-SPLOST 6, from table 5, all expenses and current budgets are in good shape. Regarding schedule delays, no new delays are reported this period, and you can always turn back to your MSR table 12 for that list of previously reported delays. no request or for compensation, technically claims by district vendors in the period. And there were 4 change orders approved in the month of August. That includes a change order to for E.L. Miller Elementary, change order number 1 to Centennial Contractors to update HVAC controls, covered material escalations and miscellaneous items, $240,291.42, and reason code owner directive at Farrington Elementary, change order number 1 to CWI, that's Construction Works Inc., for $121,801.93. Again, updating the AC controls and some material escalation. At Redan Middle School, project 32235, change order number 1 to CWI for $228,271.47. Again, for material escalation and to update the HVAC controls. And at Salem Middle School, change order number 1 to CWI for $230,328.37 to update those HVAC controls and material escalation. We do have a few progress photos to share. Starting with the DeKalb Early College Academy, security vestibule on the exterior installation. Another view of DECA security vestibule installation. That appears to be caulking around the new bullet-resistant glazing. Another view of the new storefront at the security vestibule for DECA. At Elizabeth Andrews, view of the interior panel of the security vestibule there, including new storefront doors, and another view for Elizabeth Andrews. This is the Salem Middle School roof replacement. And apologies, folks, it might be my eyes, but that appears blurry. And a completed roof replacement, essentially complete roof replacement at Salem Middle School. And that concludes my formal remarks. Happy to take questions.
Yeah, Kevin has a question. Go ahead, Kevin.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Great presentation. I appreciate it. Quick question. And this may be, oh, good grief, come on. This is a question probably be more germane to Eric. We mentioned on there about the interest garnered from the E-SPLOST deposits. Does that interest remain purely allocated towards E-SPLOST, or does it become eligible for general expenditures?
Yeah, great question. And where does it go? So without getting into too much of the details, because I'd have to refer to the CFO on the absolute details, but my understanding is any interest earned from E-SPLOST goes into a separate account code, because we have to track that separately from among collections. And then eventually that money will end up in the general fund to be used for E-SPLOST if necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Great question, though. Because that ends up being a lot of money that can come out later.
That's right.
Over
That's
time.
right. That's a
Yes,
lot
sir.
of money. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We try not to budget that because you just never know. But at the same time, it comes in handy when it is available.
Sure. Thank you for
Yeah.
the answer. Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? I actually had 2 questions for you, Mel.
Yes, Kathy.
I want to understand when you say that you're bundling the Nancy Creek and the Champion projects together, what does that mean?
That means the request for proposals that goes out to the community to solicit builders would include both projects. We believe that, well, our experience has told us Kathy, that smaller projects, particularly HVAC projects, are not getting the interest that we had hoped. So bundling a $4 or $5 million project, Nancy Creek, with a $10 million project, originally Champion, to get you over $15 million, we believe will attract more reliable and substantial bidders. Once we receive the bids, we would generate a separate contract for each facility. But that would be one bidder. And we, again, recent history has shown that that's been good for our bid response.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, and why do you think that there's not why are the bids low for HVAC contracts? Is that because of the backlog with the supplies?
Well, that's part of it. Most of the builders have weighed in heavily on this, and they tell us that they're busy. There's a lot of construction in the region. You can kind of see that when you drive around the Atlanta metro area and you see cranes in the air everywhere. So that's at the general contractor level. Dropping down one level to the specialty or subcontractors, particularly HVAC, meaning mechanical and or electrical, in very high demand. In fact, two of our builders who have performed successfully for us for years have told us recently that they've booked their subcontractors for mechanical work through the end of calendar 2024. So that means that they'd like to work on more projects for us, but they don't have the quote manpower, the labor power to do so. The trade unions, the trades tell us themselves that for skilled trades, generations are turning over. So a lot of more skilled journeymen are retiring, and a lot of younger folks aren't coming up through the trades to backfill those positions. So that creates, again, more pressure on the labor pool, the subcontractor pool, which rolls up to the general contractor pool.
Okay, interesting. And my last question is, you said something about the storefront doors arrived with a defect?
In the glazing, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so how did you determine that?
Visual inspection.
Okay, all right, awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
Kevin?
Yeah, I got one more question. Hey, Mel.
Hi,
Mel,
Kevin.
hey, how you doing, baby? In regards to, you mentioned that there were several contracts that had single bidders and the board had cast them out to be rebid. Now, is that because they're single bidders in the notion of a competitive bid, or was it there's an issue with the costing of the bid that the board felt wasn't appropriate for acceptance?
Good question. Well, all questions are good questions, but I think you hit it pretty much on the head. Actually, the request to award would not get to the board. It's made, that decision is made by basically Mr. Hofstetter here,
Okay,
operations. And it's a couple things. Presuming that the procurement process runs according to regulation and law, which it always does. Our procurement manager is a stickler. One bidder would not necessarily mean we don't want to award the project, but if in fact, to your point, that one bidder's cost seems far outside of the range that we believe the project should cost, we can in good faith recommend award to Eric, and he agrees with that pretty much every time. If that sole bidder price was kind of in the range that we thought was reasonable, we might go ahead and make that recommendation to Eric to award to that contract. And we've done that in the last few months, but not in the case where the price would be out of bounds, we'll call it.
got it. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kathy. I'll turn the screen back over to the agenda.
All right, thanks, Mel, appreciate that. And great questions, Kevin. Were there any more questions for Mel? All right.
Thank you.
Facilities maintenance report, work order, report update.
Yeah, and thank you. Hey, I just wanted to follow up with that. The discussion there, Kevin and Kathy, we have that probably 2 or 3 times a week. And really it's kind of how this changing market and the economy itself and the labor pools is starting to reveal it looks like the new norm. And so we're having to look at changing up strategies. just case in point, we're not the only ones feeling this. We're in contact. I've talked to all our Metro colleagues all the time. Everyone is seeing low bids, right? Low participation of submissions. Let's put it that way. Getting 1 and 2 vendors is almost becoming the norm, mainly for many of the reasons that Mel stated earlier. Just they're scheduled out, and
Yeah, I
they just
would
don't
think
have that
also
capacity. Yeah.
that COVID, you know, let's be honest, we had a lot of people transition due to COVID. So that's going to affect a lot of areas.
Yeah. And we're seeing that through. So, in fact, talking with one of our sister school districts here in the metro area, was a large district. Their last submission, they got zeros. Nobody submitted. It was literally, it's that competitive right now. And the capacity of our contractors to be able to commit is pretty much at max capacity. So, you know, and like I said, for a number of reasons. And so we're having to adjust strategies, all legal and all transparent, but in order to see if we can keep our schedule going and accelerate our schedules where possible. So it's kind of a new territory for all of us, unfortunately. But we're making it work, and with the help of this team here, they're doing a great job adjusting and adapting and finding ways of getting the work done. So my hat's off to them. That being said, let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. Can I share? I'm not sure I can. Oh yeah, I can. All right, here we go. Let me just bring this up.
Hey, Eric, just a real quick question, because I know you're getting ready to do the work order. Okay. Can we, you know, after you do the work order report, can we go into, or maybe what we need to do is have it for next time, of explanation of what the new breakdown of the areas are for the county?
As
like
far as which schools or?
You know, I know the work order report is broken out based on the areas. So I want to understand, you know, what the new areas are.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's something we need to speak about. And I'll show you. It might help with this report, the way we've been reporting it lately. As we transition, and I hope everyone can see this chart here. You know, we look at the entire school district, and what we're doing is breaking it down by shop, because we're really trying to track resourcing and in order to get on top of some of our maintenance. And I'm going to try to come back to and answer your question, Kathy. But as you can see here by shop, where our ability to hit work tickets under 30 days and close them out in over 30. Now, some of this we've experienced a glitch with our program. They did some updating, and we found that it didn't close out everything. So we're having our managers go back in and close. So these numbers are a little off, but I can't tell you to what extent. I just know that they're not exact at this point. Some of them are closed. But that being said, what we're looking for are trends. And as you can see, you know, most areas we run pretty normal. But our highest area lately is in kitchen and our kitchen equipment. Now, this is an area that we've identified that does absolutely need some addressing, and we are addressing it. We have reorganized in the last 2 weeks. Kitchen equipment repair has always been the function here for the last several years within the school nutrition services department, because it's very, very difficult to find HVAC and refrigeration and kitchen equipment repair techs, and also contractors that know how to repair this. It's an area that we do need to follow up with more. So we have recently reorganized into our maintenance department a kitchen equipment repair team of electricians and others. Kitchen equipment is a priority because, yes, we have to feed children. We have to make sure that equipment is up and operable. At the same time, we're on a quest now. We've been purchasing more kitchen equipment itself. But again, lead times are running 3 to 6 months. And we even have larger projects where we're actually including new freezers. And some of that is funded by E-SPLOST in these projects. In addition, we also have general funds, school nutrition funds, and a number of other grants that we can use to support that. So this is an area that we are working on. HVAC, same thing. Many times it's parts and just trying to get in front of it. We're also addressing the HVAC when we do these large capital improvement projects with replacing them all together. And that is, so it's an area of how we work together and align, not only using SPLOST money to reduce our operational costs, but also how we're supporting the new SPLOST projects or capital improvement projects themselves. So this kind of gives you an idea on where that is. Okay. So to answer your question, we are looking at reporting areas. And again, we're doing it mainly, we get real granular by school because that's what we have to do. But also we're looking at by shop so we know where to put resources. Every school is a little different. Some are new, some are old, some are at their end of the service. And we're trying to take a global approach. We can look at reporting in a number of ways. We looked at doing it by area, but again, our new area setups, middle and high school are countywide. Our specialty schools are countywide, and our Horizon schools are countywide. And Horizon schools can change every 2 years. So it makes it really difficult to have any kind of consistent reporting. One thing we can do, and if we are going or wanting to look at regional or something to replace an area type reporting, something that is very stable might be by board member district, because those are things that would generally change once every 10 years if there was any change to them. That is just a suggestion at this time. But like I said, overall, we're trying to work more down towards the school level, and make sure every school is getting what it needs, so they're all operable. That being said, I would like to share one more item with you. And again, this is on our efforts to become more transparent and more, am I saying this right, communicative with the community. We've recently updated our capital improvement website. And here it's just some ongoing efforts that you can kind of keep up with. We'll be releasing more information as we go. But over here on the left, you'll see a projects by school tab. Now, please keep in mind that when we move to capital improvements, these are all capital improvements, regardless of the funding source. And here you can go and search a particular school and get its latest report. Here's a sample of a project update. I think this one here has to do with sprinkler installations, and you can kind of scroll through, get where we're at in the program, what the project status is, and what the 4-week look ahead is. We are, again, this is a work in progress, and this will be a very fluid site. We are looking at trying to hire a full-time person that does nothing but keeps this updated so that our community has the latest status reports on individual schools. I see, Mr. Alexander, you have your hand up.
Yes, sir. I appreciate, man, you're doing a great job, Eric. I really enjoy changes.
We are.
Yes,
are the whole
yes,
team,
that's right. That's right.
including
That's
you and
right.
your advisor. Yes,
That's
sir.
a good adder. That's right.
There you go.
Quick question on the report that you share with that grid. Are you guys considering placing that on the public website? And the reason I say is, one, I think it's a very good set of information. It really gets down to the meat and potatoes of things. And secondly, as a data repository, and you mentioned yourself that looking at trends. So I would like to be able to see that same data, because, be honest, month over month, it seems new to me again, and I don't have a reference point. So I would, just as a potential recommendation for your next enhancement releases. And I know that that's a whole different party in itself, but I would hope that you potentially would consider to add this to the public website. That's
Sure. So you're talking about the work ticket information?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We have a piece on our dashboard with the transition to our new Munis work ticket system, and admittedly we're still trying to implement it. It's a little bit of a cumbersome project. We're actually spoke to today to our consulting programmer that's helping us with this about how we can get to a daily update onto the website in a very easy readable fashion, because to be honest with you, the work ticket, it gets a little confusing. So what we're trying to do is just get the data down, and that would be updated every 24 hours.
Gotcha.
Now, keep in mind, obviously, the work tickets don't always explain everything that's going on, and they do change daily, constantly, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Some get closed, new ones come on. And some of the work tickets really aren't work tickets in the traditional sense, because we also use it for other information, and we're also looking at ways that we can service our schools better.
Gotcha.
So there, we're attempting to make things more efficient,
Right.
but admittedly, the downloads off the ticket system onto a website in a readable fashion is, I guess, proving a little more challenging than
Sure.
what we first expected.
Good
But we're going to
old-fashioned-
bridge it. We are making headway.
Sure, you got the crawl, walk, run thing. I get it.
We got to, yes, yeah. And once we get it set, nobody change anything because it's working, right? So because once they update one program, everything seems to shut off again, and then we got to figure it out. So
Mhm.
I'm sure you all have familiarity with that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
it's a never-ending thing, but
Sure.
but
And la-
we're
and la-
working on it.
And lastly, I think that idea about tying that reporting to the board representative is a very novel idea, because it helps the community know where the rubber meets the road. So I think that's a good idea. I don't know if you're going to play it out, but you got my personal yeah.
There you go. There you go. And I
Thank you,
think
sir.
that, I think Daniel hit on that later, because I think there's some bylaws information we may have to update, or at least discuss and identify. So, but thank you. Yeah, good work. Good consideration. Hi, Lisa.
Good evening. Happy Wednesday to everyone.
Hi.
I have a general question that I asked months ago, but I said, let me just ask now just to see if things have changed. In your planning, have we ever sought federal funding for things like, when they had the money available on the federal level for the electronic buses and those type of things and upgrades and all those things? So that's my question.
Yeah. No, great question. And short answer, yes. In fact, we just submitted a $22 million grant for electric buses. That is a federal grant. We're hoping to find out if we get that in about in a few months when they release that. Just for general knowledge, the implementation of electric buses into our fleet is it's growing here in Georgia. It is something we're researching. The simple thing is getting the buses is kind of the easy part. It's the infrastructure that's proving to be a bigger challenge, and it does lend itself into facilities. One of the things that Richard is looking at into our specifications is the idea of charging stations and what is needed for the future, and make these more future ready sites. In our bus fleet, it is coming, but comes with it, there are laws and regulations about working on electric buses in the same type of maintenance garage where you have gasoline buses. So we would have to update and provide and create facilities separate for electric buses, and also have the power grids. So those are just some examples, but that is one of our initiatives that we are working on. We do work closely in a larger sense with our grants department, who do a fine job, and they find us all kinds of other grants, whether they're federal or local funded, and we do include those. Many of those don't always show up in the E-SPLOST ledger or in this advisory committee. However, as we kind of switch over to this capital improvement, we want to capture and include all that. In addition to everything Mel shared with us, in the new reporting that you're going to see, or if you really look through that report, you're starting to see other funded projects that are not in the E-SPLOST ledger. Right now, we have, I think, 18 HVAC replacement projects that are coming out of general fund that will be eligible for ESSER reimbursement through the federal government that we're also working on. That's also lending into some of the contractor capacity, because you have a whole new funding source that's demanding the same amount of resources from the contractors, regardless if it's E-SPLOST or not. So in another year or so, when the ESSER timetable expires, we anticipate that may help some. But it's also, there's a backlog of many projects around for many school districts. So we anticipate it's going to take several years to kind of adjust to. So, yeah. And if you know anything, Lisa, of any grants, please send them our way because we're always interested.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kind of a long answer. I know, but just wanted to make sure you knew where we were, what we're thinking.
But I have one more thing. You mentioned that if we do get the grants, we won't see it if it reduces any cost for it. It's not going to be in our E-SPLOST. Is there any way to do some kind of reconciliation so people can see how the county has saved money by getting those grants and reducing the need to use other funds?
Yeah, I think we could work on something like that. Usually for the grant reports, we have to show, the results of it. Sometimes these grants don't always reduce cost, but they might in the sense that it doesn't increase our cost, particularly when you get in what we're finding when you get into the electrical vehicle side. That is something that we're going to have to learn how to do and how to manage. Case in point, we recently received, I think it was $3 million worth of air purifiers. So every one of our classrooms has an air purifier in it. And that was through a federal grant. And but the reality is our energy costs are going to go up as everybody's running these. So why it obviously it improves our indoor air quality. We're watching that one closely because it's still drawing more energy in order to use and get the benefit from. So we'll know more about that after probably sometime next summer, so we can start seeing what those trends and those bills look like and the impact. Just as a case, yeah, an example.
All right. Any other questions for Eric? And those are some great questions. So thank you. They elicited a lot of discussion.
Yep. Thank you all.
All right. So next on our list, the Board of Education reports from the committee. I think that Robert Little was supposed to attend the September meeting. And I see that he is not present in our meeting, so we will move right along into new business. Notification of upcoming community meetings and other events. Didn't see anything unless there was something that somebody else saw that I did not see.
No, they're not any.
Okay. 10B, fill one vacant position.
So I think what we wanted to talk about was the plan for how we were going to fill that one position. And Eric and I talked about that. And along with the idea of the board district. So right now, and also this is something that will have to, they'll need to be looked at in the bylaws. From my recollection, the bylaws had stated that when this committee was first established, there were supposed to be 2 members from each region and 2 at-large members. Of course, that was back when we had 5 regions. We've since grown to 7 regions, now 0 regions. So what we were looking at or wanting to discuss is the best way to bring people on board, and 2 ways that actually, I guess I talked about a couple of ways. One way we could look at would be by high school district, by high school cluster. I'm not sure that would work too well. We also talked about the new areas, but if you had 2 from every area, that could get a little messy because our areas, the way the areas are set up, we have 3 elementary school areas, a middle school, a high school, specialty schools, and the Horizon area. So what Eric and I had talked about was probably be best to do one of two ways. One that we had talked about was 2 per board district. But as we all know, we only have 12 members currently, and of course there's 7 districts. So do we want to increase the number of committee members? Then another one that we could consider is having 4 members from each of the elementary school areas. So there are only 3 elementary school areas. And within those areas, that would capture all of the elementary, high school, middle school, specialty schools, and horizon schools within that elementary school area. If we had 4 from each area, then of course that would be our current 12. So I think we need to talk about those. I've looked at how many we currently have in each board district, and also how many we currently have in each elementary school area. And then, as I was saying, we just need to decide which way we want to go, if we want to have 12 or 14 members. So I'm going to open it up. Eric, if you had anything else you wanted to say on that.
Let me stop.
Go ahead.
Because our bylaws do not, they only say that the committee shall be composed of 12 members, so we can't move to 14 unless we make an amendment and it's been approved.
Right.
So that can't be done right now. And
that's why I was saying this kind of needs to work in association with the bylaws if we wanted to do that.
yeah, but you can't impose something that is, the bylaws amendments would be in process, so you can't change a process when the bylaws amendments are in process.
Okay.
So, and then it does not stipulate, only thing under membership, it says membership composition and selection process. The membership are private citizens who reside within the boundaries of the district, are neither elected officials nor public employees from any agency that oversees E-SPLOST funds, and do not have any economic interest in any of the district's projects. Members are required to disclose to the committee any real or perceived conflicts of interest. So those are the only stipulations for membership on the committee.
Okay. Well then, I know in the past, what we've always tried to do is try to, so we wouldn't have the membership, one area of the county outweigh another. We have always gone by the 2 per region, back when it was 5 regions. I would ask then, what do we think is the best way to organize this so we have 12 members that are spread out across the region? Because we don't want to, and we've always have worked over the last however many years I've been working on this to make sure that we're spread out, not only by region. We also didn't want any particular school cluster, high school cluster overrepresented, or a region overrepresented. Do we think then that dividing this based on the elementary school areas would be most prudent at this point?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, because I don't know what the
Okay.
area school,
So-
the elementary school areas are. So I think it would be prudent for us not to do anything based on the changes that the district has currently made until we update our bylaws, they get approved. And then at that time, if we still have a vacant position, we can update the process.
Okay. No, that sounds like a good idea. Is that what you were going to say, Eric? I see you shaking your head in agreement.
It sounds like hold on to the status quo right now until we
Yeah.
can, till we get this figured out. Yeah, every time we looked at the areas, I don't know if they're gonna work for us, but what I would caution is that these things can change every year. So
Right.
if we're going to do some kind of geography, we want to make sure it's stable and that way it just makes sense. But again, the regions, they were always academic regions more or less, but they were always could be changed, and that's exactly what happened. So, but even in the areas we are now, those can change. They're very fluid, and again, those are more for academic reasons. Facilities are in the ground; they're not moving anywhere, and regardless of the educational programming that's going on, we still have to maintain those buildings and build where necessary. So, just something to consider.
Yep. Kevin, you had a question?
Yeah, I guess more of a statement. So, I mean, as Madam Chair, you stated, in the bylaws, there's no geographical definition, although you guys made attempts to ensure that there was equal quote representation from the areas. So I guess my question now is, what is the impetus for making a change? It appears that we have a process that is fairly salient. Why are we looking at trying to label this in this type of activity in the bylaws? Because that's what it would take, is a bylaws change. So what's the benefit that we get out of changing the current process?
Ensuring that no one area is overrepresented or underrepresented. I mean, we have always have advertised, and when we try to get a pool of people that are interested, and we do have one or two regions, the past regions where we had very little participation. We have a few that have a lot of participation. And the attempt was always to spread that out so that we had equal participation as much as we could across the county.
So with that being said, I think from a bylaws change, we should avoid tagging names, but define a process like you guys are doing now, but formalize the notion of the process to say that we shall work to ensure an equal representation as best as possible. Formalize something like that versus tagging names, because that becomes a maintenance object.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm confused on the tagging names part.
So if we say for example, if we say, let's do it by elementary school districts, and then next year, then the board decides to reshuffle the deck. So now we have to go back in and re-amend the bylaws. Versus what we're trying to ensure, what we're actually trying to do is not really worry about the people, places, and things, but we're really trying to ensure a fair process.
Right.
Or
And
an equitable process.
And the one, as Eric had mentioned earlier, the one geographical boundary that changes the least would be the board district boundary. But there's 7 board districts, so that right off the bat is going to be problematic.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I think that we should try to avoid that and formalize it in bylaws, because it does become a maintenance issue when times change, and we know things change. That's just the nature of the beast. So if we formalize the process and ensure that we're doing a job that is equitable, that tries to do an equitable distribution as best as we can, regardless of the names, I think that we should formalize that, because it doesn't become a yearly chore, or whenever we decide to do something different from a representation perspective, from the board's perspective. I mean, just like we did here, we changed from regions to now we're looking at educational experiences.
Right. Okay.
Just a thought. Like I said, just trying to cut down on the maintenance.
All right.
Any other discussion from any committee member? Okay, so, Richard, I'm assuming that you're going to move forward with doing it the way that we were doing it before? Advertising, taking the, submissions for candidates, and then going through the interview process?
Yeah, we can do that. And then just select the one person, because I think we do need a new candidate pool. And then select the one person with the highest score, without consideration of where they are in the county. Is probably the best thing to do then. But yeah, we'll start working on that process.
Okay.
Hey, I have one more thing on this subject, not on this particular one, but who updates the website? And the question I'm asking is because I was looking on the website the other day, and I noticed that we had that advertisement for candidates for the board for this committee. Yet there were dates on there like back in 2020, 2021 or 2022, which were out of date. So I just potentially we need to go back and either prune those dates or take the dates off, because anybody okay.
Yeah, no, that's a work ticket that we have to put into IT, but we need to review the website then.
Well, before we do that, because I think that the dates probably need to stay, because we want to make sure that, okay, the last list that we had was from 2021. Now it's time for a new list for any open positions. So I think the dates probably need to stay.
Well, the reason I raised that up is that deadline for submitting applications. Yeah, that's what. So now anybody that goes there, they will see that the deadline for submitting applications was back in 2021. That was my concern.
Yeah, I would hope that, because it was an old date, that they would not try to submit anything, because literally you're way beyond the date.
Sure, they wouldn't submit anything, and I think that's our challenge, is that nobody's going to submit anything because they would see that.
Well, I think we're trying to buy into something, or buy into a problem that doesn't exist just yet. So I would assume that the county would, once we start the process for the open position, that we would update that information.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, and I was bringing it up because optically, when a person goes on a website and sees that something is 2 or 3 years old, optically, that's not a good look. That's why I'm raising it.
No, true.
Well,
Okay, but
well, we can't go in there and just, make up a date, because optically it doesn't look appeasing to somebody. I think that the date is the date. So if we started accepting applications for candidates, and the deadline is to submit is October 31st, 2023, then that was the last submission date.
Sure, but I believe the appropriate thing to say is submissions are now closed versus having something that was 2 years old. You say submissions are now closed, and we'll let you know when we're going to start accepting applications again. That's
I think we're splitting hairs here, Kevin. I
don't agree with
that.
I'll yield to the floor, but I don't agree with that.
Well, you don't yield to the floor, you yield to the chair. And I think that is splitting hairs. We're getting a little
well, I'll yield to the chair, and just final. I think that before I yield, I would say that anywhere you go and you see a website that's referencing 2 years old, then you become concerned. And I yield to the chair.
All right. Well, your concern is duly noted. And we will move right along on our agenda if there's no other questions. All right, so collection of recommendations from the meeting. And the only one that I had is we need to get an update on the new area/district breakdown or experience, however the county is naming it. So we want to make sure that our committee understands what the new breakdown is of the county. And I don't think I heard anything else. Okay, hearing none. Moving right along into 12A, the vacancy report for facilities maintenance department. And
Yeah, and thank you. So again, we don't have necessarily a per se vacancy report. We're constantly hiring for retention. What I will tell you is that all SPLOST funded, well, let me put it this way. There are 0 SPLOST funded vacancies currently right now in our facilities maintenance department. But it's something that we constantly are looking to hire, and of course, sometimes they just don't exist. So what we're finding, even though we would like, and I'm making this up, right, 10 HVAC positions, we're just not finding them in the labor pool. We're getting 0 applications, even with recruiting efforts. So our vacancies are almost like wish list, and that's why we are defaulting working with contractors in order to get the work done. So I just want to caution that what that vacancy report may not reveal in the numbers.
okay, I think that was Lisa wanted information on that. So Lisa, did you have any comments? Or any feedback?
That's still, I guess, kind of vague. Just saying you're hiring all the time. There has to be some general goals you have set versus what you have, like looking at your, HVAC. Like if I said how many vacancies, what would you say? I just think I know it's constantly changing, but I know there has to be some targeted goals versus where we are, that you can get some, to me, some just general information, just so we have a better idea of how our hiring practice, our hiring and retention is going.
Yeah, and I'll keep working on those numbers for you. It's we may want 20, and I'm making this up again. We may want 20 HVAC positions. I can tell you we have, let's say, 17. Even with hiring, those positions remain vacant. So while it's desired, I think what we're analyzing right now is what's going to be real. And again, that's in light of what we're seeing in recruiting trends. We are working with HR in order to do this, because it still is a pretty competitive market, particularly for some of our high needs specialties and skilled trades. I have asked for, and I've been granted, a separate HR recruiting, retention, and manager for the operations division, and because the need is so great, so the district has supported that, and I want to thank the board for supporting that. We are actively trying to fill that position right now, and really the sole purpose is to constantly keep up. I think what we're finding is the retention is the difficult part for many of our positions. There are some benefits that we need to do. I mean, there's a number of reasons that we can get into for another day about our challenges. But we are learning and adapting. And again, I think some of this is adapting to the new way and the new world that we're having to come to grips with. So I think that's the best I can talk with you right about now with it. But having the actual numbers, again, it's almost like work tickets. It's what you desire versus what's probably real, and what we're currently at. I can tell you that we've been able to retain more people. We have seen a trend in that in many of our skilled trade work positions. And you know, it kind of comes and goes with this labor market. Sometimes we see a spike and then all of a sudden it doesn't, or something happens and we lose 2 or 3 people. But I think when we get in, like I said, I'm not so sure that's necessarily for this committee, because we're really diving down into a whole nother facet of making the operations division work.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other questions? All right, 12B, change order report to area, not region. I think we've had that discussion. Would that be right, Eric?
Yeah, that is correct. We're having a difficult time doing that, so that's why we're starting to list them. We, like I said, granular, we go by schools, but I think one of the important indicators is we look at it by what we call shop, by trade.
Yep. Any other questions? Or any questions? Sorry. All right, moving along to 13, announcements. Any announcements? You know, I think we skipped over the updates from the bylaws subcommittee. So I think we need to go back. Daniel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The bylaws committee and I met last Wednesday. I want to thank the committee for the meeting last week and their hard work on coming up with recommendations. Definitely want to applaud Kevin Alexander for his contributions. He has several recommendations for the bylaws. And I'll defer to Kevin for his to explain his recommendations. Well, he can do a much better job of explaining them than I can.
Wait a minute, hold on one second, Kevin. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Daniel, are you ready to present the proposed amendments now, or what are we doing?
We wanted to have some discussion about some of the recommendation. Well, we can just go over some of the burning questions we want to raise now, and then we can present the final list next month.
Yeah. Can we do this? Let's let the committee review what the proposals are, and then we can have discussion on that, as opposed to Kevin presenting his amendment, his proposed amendments. Because I think that's, I don't know about it for anybody else. I like to read it and digest it first. Somebody presenting it is like spitting in the wind to me.
Fair enough.
And just wanted to also offer out, I know you did send an email to the committee members, but if anybody has any bylaw amendments that they would like to propose, we need to make sure that they go to Daniel or someone that he designates on his committee, so that everybody has an opportunity to make any updates to our bylaws. So, all right, so number one, I think we're now going to update our list. So we're going to have the bylaw amendment proposals to the committee by what date? Daniel?
Sorry, I was on mute. The next committee meeting will be October 16th. So preferably by October 17th. So that way I'll have an opportunity to receive the recommendations and forward them to the committee.
So did everybody got that? Everybody has that 17th as the last date, by close of business, which 5 p.m.
And I'll send another email to remind everyone.
Okay, great. And any questions from anybody? All right, just a quick question to you, Daniel. If you have the deadline on the 17th, will your subcommittee meet again?
Oh, we're meeting on the 18th.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? And I apologize, Daniel. We just skipped all over that, and that was most important.
No worries, but again, I'll send out a reminder for the deadline and the notice of the meeting.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mel, one last time. Make sure I did. We are now at announcements again. Any announcements from anybody in regards to anything? All right, hearing none, our next meeting is that right? Yeah, it is October 25th at 6 o'clock. Please make a note on your calendar. And we will see everybody on the 25th. If there are no other discussion, our meeting is adjourned at 7:27. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a happy Wednesday and a good rest of the week.